fine,
Dave,
MZ.
Dave Michael.
Yes, MZ.
So, on the contrary, in fact, I've been bitching about the face masks ever since they became an issue, right?
Right.
Okay, well, I'm not anymore.
Why is that?
Because our KSCO face masks are really sharp. They make you a cool person, whereas you're a nerd if you don't, even if you're a nerd, you turn into a cool person. And the coolest thing of all is that if you wear the KSCO, I don't even want to wear, I want to wear a mask all the time now as long as it's the KSCO mask.
They look great,
Do you
MZ.
get it?
Yes, absolutely.
You agree?
Absolutely.
How can any mask? Can you believe that I'm actually saying that? And I mean it. It comes from the heart.
That's great. And you know what, MZ? Even better than that is when you do that, you support your favorite radio station and you support local businessmen. Because these are made locally. They're not made in China. They're made right here.
And you can breathe in them.
You can breathe in them.
They
look
can
great.
breathe. I breathe better in my KSCO mask than without a mask at all. How do you like that?
That sounds... I totally believe it, MZ.
And how much are they? Are they $10.80 each?
$10.80 a piece, yes.
I see. Good.
Yeah.
Great.
Pretty nice, huh? Pretty snazzy there. All right, so what am I doing here, MZ?
I'm happy you're here. Not that I'm unhappy that Josh Stevens isn't here, but I can ask you a personal question instead of the one I was going to ask him, okay? Is that okay?
Okay, yeah, I'm ready.
All right. May I ask you a personal question? Oh, yeah, you already said you're ready. Are you ready to leave the United States and go to a better place if you can figure out a better place? Is it getting to be too much for you now?
No.
Really?
No. I will not give up on this country, MZ. I will not give up on it.
I'm not suggesting that people...
No, I think it's the best country. I can't imagine that there's a better place. Maybe there is, but I grew up here. I keep all my stuff here. This is where I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well...
And I'm wishing our president the best, by the way, as I'm sure everybody else is.
Well, not everybody else is.
Well, most reasonable people. I saw an update from his doctors this morning. He's on, what is that, Resdesivir or some kind of drug like that. He's getting better, never was on oxygen. Overall, he's doing relatively good.
Okay. You gave me the greatest positive answer, that to the topic that I thought we would make today. I think it'll evolve. That topic is, where in the world can Americans go to escape the rapidly deteriorating USA?
Boy, I don't know. That's a weird question. If you want to go to a more conservative country, that might be...
Well, just a country that's functional instead of dysfunctional. I don't want to say bad things about my country, but I'm getting so depressed. I'm getting so saddened. You don't think it could get any worse, and then it does, and then it gets a lot worse.
Why do you say that? Why today do you say that?
Because I can see things. I can see the possibility of huge changes, unfolding. Like Nancy Pelosi being the president in a matter of weeks. Can you see that?
No, that's not going to
Really?
happen. Yes, but what I do see is the eventual movement towards the left. The United States is going to move to the left. It's just going to happen. That's the way things are going now, and it's going to happen. And Do
you feel like you're going to be losing your freedoms?
I feel like probably that the people did when their buggies were replaced by automobiles, and they were just left out to antiquity. We're getting outdated, MZ.
Okay, well, so I don't know. Maybe that's not a good topic, but I think we're going to have a great guest. We're going to have a great guest who pulled up stakes and moved his family to Ecuador 5 or 6 years ago.
Wow, sounds
good friend
hot.
of mine, yeah. But first, here, Michael Harrison and his orchestra. Are you there?
I'm sitting here lurking. I'm a listener lurker.
Okay, Michael, the Michael Harrison. From the Michael Harrison Rap on your favorite radio station, Fridays from 6 to 7 p.m., and I think we're rerunning it on Sundays. Am I right, Dave Michaels?
Yes, it reruns on Sundays.
On Sundays, and this is the man himself. He's the publisher of Talkers Magazine. I believe he's very modest, and he'll disagree probably, but I believe he's the most influential human being in the world of talk radio. He publishes the Bible of talk radio. Talkers Magazine has done that for as long, probably 6 months longer than I've been running KSCO. You know, that's amazing. And Michael and I have been friends that long, 30 years now. But recently, Michael has expressed very positive feedback on our China Uber Alles program that we have been doing here for the last 5 or 6 weeks. And Michael, I love compliments, as you know. So you feel like ladling some?
Well, first of all, I want to answer the question that you put poor Dave into a corner with, which I thought that Dave's answer was excellent. That there's no country
he's a
like
class
the United
act,
States.
and I believe that too.
But you asked the question, where can people go to get a better life than we're having right now in the United States? Is that, or to escape the disorder that we have? The place to go is to the voter booth. That's the place to go to make things better.
Or to your mailbox, right?
Well, voting. I'm talking about it figuratively. Vote. That's it. If everybody voted, then that's at least a step in the direction of being able to make the place where, I like another thing Dave said, where we keep our stuff. That's why we have to stay here. We've got all our stuff here. Boy, is that an insightful position and statement, because we have our stuff here, and our stuff, you know, what does our stuff mean? It means our lives, our businesses, our history, our material goods, our everything. We got our stuff here. So, you know, it's not so easy to go away.
Of course, and every once in a while we talk about this, but still, I mean, it bears discussion. It bears.
Yeah, but we got to have. Look, you'll notice I'm definitely not saying who you should vote for to make things better. I'm just simply saying the first step is vote, and I think the step before voting is vote intelligently. We need to have a nation of people that grew up understanding what civics is. You got to know how the machine operates to be able to, you know, operate it. And a system, a political system, is a machine. And it's got buttons and levers and gas pedals and brakes and all kinds of, you know, dials. And if you don't know how it runs, it's like giving somebody, you know, the keys to a helicopter and saying, go fly it. You know, and they vote that way. Enough said. It does segue into a discussion about China Uber Alles. And also, I'd like to disclaim that I do try to stay out of left-right politics, and I do try to not be partisan.
Smart man.
Without that stupid thing of saying I take the center, because the center is the most bold and dangerous place to be right now in America. Because if you are not in agreement with people who are on either side, you are immediately cast as a member of the other side, and you really wind up arguing with everybody and talking to yourself. So, no, I'm not a centrist. I'm just very independent, and I say it as I see it.
Right.
So the two political issues that right now I actually, you know, wade into the conversation on are, one, the defense of the First Amendment, always, and the current situation that the United States faces with the CCP. At the PRC, the People's Republic of China, that's run by the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. And anybody who knows anything about what's going on for decades now knows that even though they may have changed their tone and changed their style from the days of Mao Zedong to the days of Xi Jinping, that China presents what I guess is called a hegemonic threat to the United States, a threat to our influence and our dominance and our presence, not only globally, but even here domestically. And how this has happened is a long story that we're not going to get into, at least I'm not going to get into here. But we have a menace that we deal with in China. So the fact that you have created a radio show that's produced at KSCO that has a staff, an on-air panel of hosts and a parade of guests that is as credible as anything I have ever seen. Nan Su from the Epoch Times, Amy Howe, who is a former Chinese prison camp internee and a very, very well-spoken, intelligent source of information, and Bill Graff from KSCO. It's a great base to talk about the problem we face with communist China, the unfair trade practices, the military threat that they present to all of the nations, some of which are allies in the South China Sea area, the way they've been stealing our intellectual property, the situation in Hong Kong, Taiwan, the North Korean military threat, which is really a Chinese communist threat, the advance of Huawei, the Apple of China that is spreading their brand of 5G and all of their technology into our apps and into countries that we're uninvolved in. Human rights abuses, what they're doing to the Uyghurs and the labor camps, and the way they treat the spiritual movement, Falun Gong, the surveillance, back to what I said before, whether it's talking about TikTok or Huawei's 5G smartphones. They're masters of technology, and whereas we still may be thinking militarily about the size of our airplanes and the number of ships we have, they'll be attacking the technology that runs those ships, those airplanes, and make our whole communication system can fall apart. And they have, and here's the final thing of my rant. I'm sorry I'm going on so long, but what they have done, there's so much material out there, it's just, it's common knowledge if you look for it.
There's nothing really in talk radio except what we're doing.
But that's my summation. Yeah. Is that the Chinese communists are on record as doing this. This is their playbook. This is not like a conspiracy theory, and I hate conspiracy theories as a rule. I strongly advise you don't get into the realm of conspiracy theories. There's enough stuff that's not a theory that's already common knowledge, and that is the playbook is out there to be read. That they're conducting a 21st century war of subversion against the United States interests. So a 2-hour radio show in this day and age in 2020. That can be listened to by people all across the country because it is unique. I don't know of any other show of this nature. You're not only on the cutting edge, you're off the edge, and you're telling everybody how to have a bridge to knowledge. I think is remarkable, and I fully support and applaud your efforts and wish you luck because it's going to be
thank you so much, Michael.
An interesting
journey.
Me
and compliments. I just love compliments.
Well, I believe in giving credit where credit is due, and shining light on things that people may not know about.
For sure,
and
we're proud. We're proud that we are in a position to do that. And thank you very much for your help with all this.
Anything I could do will certainly be done. So I will exit now and go off to my mundane life and take care of my stuff, all of which is here in America.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, Dave. And certainly, MZ, it's always good to pop in on you. We'll talk again soon.
Great. Thank you, Michael Harrison, editor and publisher of Talkers Magazine, and just a swell guy all the way. Hey, so what do we do now? Here's what we do now.
Good morning. A brighter day is here. Good morning. May we bring you cheer.
We've got time, we've got tunes, we've got time, tunes, and temperature.
Get up and go, it's today, you know, on KSCO Radio.
Good morning, all the ships at sea. Wait a minute, I don't want to diss our local audience. Good morning, Santa Cruz, Monterey Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and the whole world, because you can hear us on our free app. You can hear us at KSCO.com. You can hear us at ZBSradio.com. And I'm welcoming every one of you who's listening to us and those of you who are not to the Saturday special. Stay with us.
Good morning. Now stay right here on KSCO Radio.
Okay, now what's an appropriate thing? The crossfire. We haven't done that in a while, right? Crossfire. This one. This nice ominous music, right? All right. I promised a wonderful, appropriate guest. And this wonderful, appropriate guest has been on KSCO Saturday Specials 2 or 3 times in the past. Quite a long time ago, though. His name is Bodhi Bodhi Kroll. Hi, Bodhi Kroll.
How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing okay. The audio is going to be a little weird. We hope we can keep the connection stable so that we can that we don't lose you or anything. Bodhi.
So far, so good. I've heard you quite well. Can you hear me well? Is the connection good?
Yeah, Dave Michael says it's okay, and I say it's okay, and Amy from the China Oberala's show is actually in the studio. Do you say it's okay, Amy?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, good. So it's okay, Bodhi. Let me remind the audience who you are. Okay, you're a guy that I became friends with in the Bay Area. I don't know, between probably 2010 and in 2014 or so. You are a serial entrepreneur. I became acquainted with you when you were running a real estate auction company, where you auctioned off real estate, and it was sort of a cool idea. Before I knew you, you ran a hang gliding company, where people who wanted to hang glide all over the Bay Area could do so with you training them, and it was great. I saw some pictures and some videos of that, but I didn't know you when you were in that business. Then one day, all of a sudden, circa 2014 or so, after you had become turned on, I think possibly through some of my efforts, to things that were not necessarily... I don't know. I don't like to use the word conspiracy, but I don't know what else to say. You got turned on to Alex Jones, and through me, and you started listening, and you thought it was pretty bizarre at first. But the more you listened, the more you said, "Wait a minute! Can any of the, if even 10% of this is true, we're in a world of hurt." Am I saying anything that's wrong? Bodhi Kroll?
I'd say that's all pretty accurate. Yes.
Okay, so out of the blue, you decided to uproot your then family of two. You're now a family of two children and a lovely wife. Now and move to, of all places, Cuenca, Ecuador. Why did you choose Cuenca, Ecuador? And why did you decide to leave our wonderful United States to begin with? What was your reason, Bodhi Kroll?
Well, it was. Let's face it, it was political. The last time I voted was in the 2008 elections, and I voted for Obama. And within 2 years, I realized during his first year, he had killed more people with those drones, extrajudicial killings, than Bush had in 8 years. And I started seeing things happening in the Democratic Party that I realized they really seemed to to my view, had really merged with the Republican Party at the top, working for the corporate masters, keeping the military-industrial complex machine going. And I just couldn't take the killing overseas in my name for my safety. I couldn't take that anymore. That was one of the reasons. And then when I saw that, Obama's presiding over the time when Edward Snowden comes out and tells us the government is recording everything we do on the internet, every email is being, sent to a Utah center for keeping track of every single email and every keystroke on your keyboard. And Obama, instead of congratulating Snowden, in my opinion, he's a hero and has alerted us to the crimes of the state. They aren't supposed to be recording everything. I shouldn't be able to have a conversation with my mother and worry that the government is not worried. No, I now know when I talk to my mother, that's just being recorded for posterity. So the freedoms weren't there. I felt we were turning into a military police state, fascist. We have been in some ways for a long time, but I just saw that it was getting worse and worse. And I just didn't feel, I felt that we were heading towards mandatory vaccines that God only knows what they've already got up to 70 of them they want you to have your kids take by the time they're 5, and number seems to be growing, and we were concerned about that. I mean, essentially, and frankly, I watched an Alex Jones film, as a liberal Democrat back then, and the film was pretty eye-opening, and ironically, a lot of it has come true in the last, to the point where they were actually predicting, from reading all these white papers that he'd read from the Rockefellers and other, government think tanks, he had predicted that we were going to have, some kind of a bioweapon release, and it would be quarantines and government lockdown, and everything that we're living through right now was, predicted by Alex Jones and not even so much as predicted by him. He was reading the white papers of the people that were planning. You can go to Rockefeller.org on the internet right now and look up the word lockstep on their search engine on the Rockefeller website. And in 2010, they had a scenario. They were running scenarios of exactly what we're living through worldwide. So they're planning for this, I think, for a long time. And whether it was intentional or not, it's definitely being used for a lot of nefarious objectives, I would say. Not the least of which is impoverishing the entire country. We're closing our businesses. They don't want us to be, traveling and having businesses, lots of money. They seem to want us locked up in our caves with a mask on. So, and not traveling and,
Wow.
So it's a crazy time. It's a crazy time. And frankly, all the reasons I was concerned and wanted to get out for the first 5.5 years, it was like, well, nothing. It's gotten a little worse. I could see the movement in the wrong direction, but now it seems like things are really coming to a head where I am thanking God we already got out. I'd rather be here than there, so that's for damn sure.
How did you decide to go where you are?
What's that?
How did you decide to go to Ecuador?
We wanted to get south of the equator for one thing. That was another motivating factor right around when we left in 2014. A lot of that radioactive waste is supposed to be heading over the Pacific Ocean and hitting the shores of California from Fukushima. And we were like, oh, my God. We were looking into it. And, I'm not a nuclear physicist, but I did a lot of reading. And the best I could ascertain was there was nuclear physicists that were saying, go in the ocean, play in the rain, don't worry about it. It's a long ways away, that Japan. And then there was others that were saying, don't go in the ocean and stay out of the rain, So we weren't really sure, but it seemed to be an ongoing disaster. So we thought if we could get south of the equator, we would have less, apparently because of the Coriolis effect, less than 1% of the radioactive stuff that's been aerosolized into the air, less than 1% of that's going to get south of the equator in the next 40 years. So we figured for the, health of our children, and probably be wise to be south of the equator, and just searched a few different countries and settled on Ecuador and came for a 2-week visit. Saw about 5 cities, fell in love with Cuenca, went home, sold everything we owned, bought the tickets for the family and 3 dogs and 19 suitcases, and that was it.
Wow.
We were here since 2014.
Wow. That's great. And
it's been a very welcoming place to arrive. I mean, it's really the Cuencanos are almost to a person just so nice and welcoming to gringos. I'm not going to say there hasn't been a couple surly ones here and there, but 99%, they love us. I mean, it seems like they all want to have their own gringo. That's mine. That Bodhi, that was my gringo, buddy.
Yeah. And I mentioned earlier...
They're really, really sweet people.
I mentioned earlier that you are a serial entrepreneur, and I meant it, and I know that's absolutely true. One of the big things you missed is a really good hamburger. In a good U.S.-type hamburger, sort of like, In-N-Out Burger. And I visited you in 2016. That was 4 years ago exactly. I mean, it was 4 years ago like today that I last saw you and visited you after you had been in Ecuador for a couple of years. And you were very excited about bringing... that style of American hamburger to to the country of Ecuador, and you came up with a Bodhi burger, which is sort of like those hamburgers you like enough. And you started Bodhi Burger, and I guess it was going pretty well until the pandemic came. And now, what's the status of Bodhi Burger?
Well, my landlord was so kind to just let me have zero rent for the first 6 months, and for now he's at 50% rent. So I'm in a holding pattern. There's fear in the air here. They're really, I don't know what it's like in the States, but I want to say 1 out of 20 people here is walking down the street in a biohazard suit with a mask on. And sometimes in front of my house, I live 10 minutes out of the city, and I'm in the country, about 10 minutes from the city center. This country is cows, chickens, no street address, no street name. And I'll see a person walking down the road on a country road alone, no one within a quarter mile of them in a biohazard suit with a mask on. Now, out here in the country, most people are actually pretty relaxed and aren't wearing the mask in the country. 1 out of 20 will be wearing a biohazard suit. But in the city, you really are forced to, compelled to wear the mask most of the time, or all of the time. If you're subject to a fine if you get caught without it. So, the fear is palpable in the air, and I know what it took to make the business profitable before COVID, and now I'm supposed to keep the restaurant 30% occupied. So in other words, I got to keep it 70% empty, and that doesn't really work with my model. My model is to fill the restaurant up. Their model now is to keep it empty. So I'm waiting till I feel the moment, and I'm hoping it'll come because, we went for 5 days to visit a friend down at the coast. And down there, 50 to 70% of the people were no longer in masks. They had felt the disease had come. A few people were taken out, and it had passed. It was just pretty much gone, so there was kind of relaxed. But up here in Cuenca, ironically, there's been very, very few deaths, but the people are scared.
Yeah. Do you think
anyway, it's on hold, and on the serial entrepreneur note, I'll just throw this out there. I'm waiting to see because now you have the UN saying we're going to be under this. I just heard they just said, you may have to be wearing masks for the rest of your natural lives. That may be just the situation ongoing. So they're trying to, I feel there's an effort to perpetuate a huge amount of fear and sell us on this thing, and we're just not seeing a lot of death or hardly any even sick people around here. I know there have been a few elderly folks that have died that were also sick with other things, but very few of those. So,
well, what about the flu? What about the flu in Ecuador? Because for I'm 68, almost 69. I'll be 69 in about a month. And, I'm getting up there in age, and for the last 15, 20 years, I've been very concerned about catching the flu. And I'm a person who doesn't like to go in crowds, and I avoid other humans as much as possible. But, because I didn't want to catch the flu, because if I caught the flu, there's a good chance I'd die, Well,
I had a bad one in December, but just before COVID came. In December, I was in bed for 2 weeks. And during that time, I saw people all around me, employees, friends, neighbors. That thing blew through Cuenca and got a lot of people sick, huge number. With the COVID, it's hard to, you have a friend of a friend that knows somebody, and now finally I know 1 or 2 that got a little bit sick, but nobody knows anyone that's died up
so
here.
You think, I don't want to put words in, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Bodhi, but do you think that this whole COVID thing might be a little overblown?
Look, during the first 6 weeks, I was holed up in here like a fortress and reading the news and following the death counts around the world and just educating myself as much information as I could. I'm watching videos coming out of China, people collapsing in the street or in their offices, just dropping over, keeling over. The people that, if you're at work, I assume you don't even know you're sick, and all of a sudden you're keeling over. I'm seeing giant trucks bringing out huge hoses of disinfecting the streets in many different countries. So what I've come to realize, and it worked. I scared the bejesus out of me, and I was locked up for 6 weeks to 2 months, and only my wife would sneak out once a week, get a few groceries. We were locked up, and then by the end of that, I just started seeing that the reported deaths were slowing. You know, like I was seeing deaths doubling every 2 to 3 days in Italy and Spain and France. I was watching before I even got to the U.S. And in fact, I was watching the story in January when nobody was really talking about it, and I had to tell my parents in late February. I said, "Look, guys, don't buy a ticket for my kids to come to America because I'm afraid," because they wanted to visit them for the summer. And I said, they're going to get stuck under quarantine. They're either going to go there and the U.S. won't let them out, or the U.S. will let them out and Ecuador won't let them in. So I said, don't buy the tickets. And my dad was like, what have you been reading? I mean, well, this is the craziest. You don't want the kids to come because you think the whole country's going to get locked down under quarantine over COVID? And what? They thought that was the craziest thing they ever heard. And, 3 weeks later, it happened. But, so yeah, I've run the whole gamut from being super scared in the beginning to realizing that really when you look at the numbers, the number of people, even in the U.S., if you accept the number 200,000, even though some of those, now the CDC is saying only 94% of those people had other conditions, only 6% didn't have. But even if you use the number 200,000, divide that by 350 million people, and it is a teeny tiny number. It sounds horrendous. It's much less than how many people we're going to lose to tuberculosis. This year we're on a schedule, like almost every year, to lose 1.6 million people to tuberculosis, another lung-borne deadly disease of the lungs. And so I've just realized that it's a lot of hoopla, and it's being used to I see now that, in my opinion, Big Pharma has taken over the media, essentially, and they are directing a scare campaign, which they intend to profit off of handsomely by, if they can, forcing all 7 billion of us to receive what they're calling a vaccine and what I'm calling genetic therapy, because that's what the Moderna one is. It is a RNA vaccine that will go in and reprogram your cells to produce more of it, just like a virus does. Virus can't replicate without using a cell that has DNA, because the virus is only RNA. Well, this new quote-unquote vaccines are just that. It's a genetic therapy, or I want to say genetic vandalism. So, yes, I think there's a deeper agenda that the Big Pharma and the media work together to scare the hell out of us. Now I'm hearing a lot of these videos out of China were fabricated to scare the hell out of us, which it did. I'm watching these things on video on YouTube thinking, holy crap, what is coming? So I was locked up tight, and then like I said, there was a flu ripped through here in December. Half the people I know had it, and the COVID's come through, and we're locked up and closed all our businesses and going, pour together, and I just haven't seen the death and the mayhem here. Although I will say this, in the coast, at the lower regions, they seem to have been harder hit, but still, even in Guayaquil, if you take the number 10,000, which is one of the numbers, it's hard. They don't have an exact number, but if you say 10,000 and Guayaquil died, out of 3.1 million people, that is a tiny, tiny fraction of 1%. So it's sad, it's horrible, but do we need to close the entire world? During which time, by the way, now they're saying that hundreds of times more people are going to starve to death because of the lockdown than are dying of COVID. So ultimately, the solution to the COVID problem is going to devastate us and cause hundreds of times more loss of life than COVID ever will. They're saying that the UN could be up to 200 million people facing starvation, in the coming months. Due to lockdown.
Bodhi Kroll, you are talking to us through my iPhone. And I would love to have you I'd love to open the phones up to our audience, but I'm not sure. It's going to be a little funny, a little different. Do you have some time available to take some calls if people want to talk to you and ask you questions or make comments to you?
I can hang out.
Okay,
Let's do it.
great. 479-1080 in area 831, or you can email mz@ksco.com if you have a comment, and particularly if you want to ask Bodhi any question, because he's a real live USA expatriate for like, what is that, 6 years now? 6.5 years, 7 years? When did you actually leave?
6 years, 6.5. May of 2014 we arrived.
Right. Okay, 831-479-1080, the regular call-in number. He is not on that number, and we don't have outgoing long-distance service, so I can't call you from our system. And I think the only way we're working through this is through not WeChat, but what's the other one?
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp, yeah, we're talking through WhatsApp, anyhow, if people call, I don't know if we're going to get any calls. If we do get calls, I'll have to figure out how to get you to hear what they're saying. I might have to repeat a word or two. Otherwise, you could email mz@ksco.com, and I can check the emails now just for the heck of it. Oh, look at this. James Freeman says, just a quick note to your co-host. If people are wanting to find a place that's better than America, they aren't true Americans. They are only reaping the benefits and unwilling to work on maintaining and upkeep. Wow! So much for, you got to take your hat off to James Freeman. Thank you for emailing mz@ksco.com. Right now, that's the only email that I've received on this topic, or during this program. Amy Howe, I wanted you here because you're in town. I wanted you here to talk about a little bit about the China Uberales, and you've traveled all over the world. I mean, there's probably not too many.
Including Ecuador. Yeah.
What do you think of Ecuador and why?
Well, it's the center of the world, you know that, right?
It is the center of the world.
Real center. I saw the old dividing line by the French people, and then the new ones. They just very little bit off. That time they don't no GPS on it to determine. It is the real center of the world. So I think Bodhi, something was right. You're talking about geographically, probably the safest place.
Yeah, the safest place. Did you hear that, Bodhi?
Earthquake, everything else.
I'm cupping my headphones over my iPhone. Can you hear what Amy is saying?
Maybe you should repeat it.
I heard that something about it being a safe area of the world. I couldn't hear it very well.
Okay, I'm going to turn up the volume. The only way I can do this, I think, is turn up the headphone volume. Go ahead and repeat it, basically, Amy, so we get this down right. So, because we're going to have to do this when we get other calls. So, what did you just say to Bodhi?
So I see. Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, you can say it.
Oh, I just said that I've been to Ecuador, and I really know it's the real center of the world, and then showed us the old dividing line by the French people. That time we don't have a GPS or those things. Then the new ones, just very little bit off, almost the same line. It's a real center of the world. So geography per se, just like you said, probably is the safest place.
Yeah. So anyhow, and that's proven to be the case with you for the last 6.5 years, right, Bode?
Yeah, it's been a great place. Like I said, the people have been very welcoming. My whole family has learned to speak Spanish. The kids are like Cuencanos, you know. I mean, they're totally adjusted and they're bilingual. And, so now, you know, I'm in a holding pattern, like I said, with the restaurant. I'm hoping maybe in the spring, if things relax, if people start realizing they haven't seen the death and the mayhem, they might try to relax, but they're being bombarded on the media with, you know, every time someone gets a cold, oh my God, you know, someone 75 with heart disease died with COVID too, you know, or put it in the papers like, oh my God, the hospitals are at 75% capacity, and they say, you know, and this hospital's got 30 beds, so they're already at 20. What are you saying? Well, I mean, we got 600,000 people here. So it's like, it's hard to get worked up about it because the numbers of actual deaths are so low. you know, anyway, you know, I'm thinking of a new business. Speaking of serial entrepreneurship, I'm hoping to keep this one going if conditions allow. But I come up with an idea, Mike. This might be a winner. I'm working on it anyway.
Do you want to divulge it to our audience?
I'm going to divulge it because there's going to be 5 people that are going to go, that is the best thing I've ever heard. I'm coming down.
Okay.
We'll see. But, no, basically, you know, I'm thinking to myself while I'm waiting, because I don't know if it's going to be a few months or another year or when I feel that it would be viable to run a restaurant. You know, I just don't know when that's going to be. In the meantime, I'm thinking, what can I do that will be quarantine proof if we're under hardcore quarantine for the next 5 years? How can I make a living? That's what I'm thinking, you know? And it suddenly dawned on me, a couple things came together, and that is, you know, while my restaurant is a 1950s style American diner, on the weekends, for fun, I'm cooking my family Chinese food, Thai food, Cambodian food, Italian, Mexican, you name it, you know. And I just have a ball cooking international food. And so I thought, you know, I could maybe continue, if I could keep my love of cooking involved in whatever this new venture would be, that'd be awesome. And I realized most of the gringos, the expats here, are 60 years old and up, and many in their 70s and beyond. And there's really no situation here to help the elderly that maybe are still living independently but would like to live in, maybe since they don't have family, they might want to live in a communal situation. So I proposed, and of getting a list together and putting this together now, that a group of, say, 10 older folks would live in one of the many vacant hotels, like gorgeous hotels built in the 1850s, just restored immaculately, like you feel
Yeah,
like you're
I stayed in one of those when I visited. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, basically they're all empty. And so my idea that I've been presented in this, I'm getting some takers. I'm dealing with 3 hotels now. They're empty, 15 to 25 room hotels. And so the idea is I would come in with 10 to 15 elderly folks that basically would share me and my assistant as their personal chef, so they would get our services shared out over the group of them. We would prepare breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and, you know, set up a menu a month in advance. Everyone would sign off on it, and we have a variety of different international cuisines and American food, and probably American breakfast every day, and then different things for lunch and dinner from different countries, according to the needs and interests of the guests. So they would then have a simplified life. They would pay one fee, and they would not have to pay anything. They wouldn't have to be, you know, because here you got to, like, go to, when you want to pay your bills, you got to walk to a building downtown and stand in a line. There's no mail service here. You cannot just write a check and stick it in the mailbox.
Well, how about online? How about paying online? You got good internet there, as I recall.
You know, some of them you can, yes, some of you can, and some you can't. But generally, the way it's done here is there's all over town, there's outlets where you can just walk in and pay the bill in cash.
Okay.
A lot of it is done in cash. But in any case, it would be a simplified life for people. It's not assisted living, it's independent living, but they would have meals cooked with butlering services, so, you know, basically,
I like
me and my
that.
assistant, whatever you need, if you forget your glasses upstairs or whatever. But they get the advantage also of living in community, so that, you know, they're not alone in some apartment where they've fallen and gotten hurt. They don't know the neighbors. And, you know, one guy a friend of mine, you know, had a stroke and was laid in his front yard for 2.5 days before anyone even found him, and he was alive still. So this, you know, protection against that by living in community, and we'll have some of their 24 hours a day. And there's nothing like this for gringos in the city. So there's been quite a big response, and so I'm just trying to finalize these deals with the hotels.
Bodhi, let me ask you this question.
Sign people up.
I received an email to mz@ksco.com from Aaron Wayne. Aaron says Ecuador in the subject line. Every place has its downside. What are the downsides for you in Ecuador? Aaron wants to know.
Well, let's think about that. I mean, I have noticed that I learned Spanish, but I got here at age 48. But most of the people here get here in their late 60s, and many of them try to learn to speak Spanish, but I think I was able to do it because I was just young enough, but I think there seems to be almost like a threshold, like a magic number somewhere between 60 and 70, where if you try to learn a language at that point, it is such an uphill battle that all I can tell you is none of the elder gringos that didn't come with Spanish skills could speak Spanish. None of them. So that's tough, but there's some English speakers here, but it's always more of a challenge the less, of the native tongue you speak. For me, I've conquered that challenge, and I'm conversational in Spanish.
Now I have. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. There's so many things I like about it. I really have to think long and hard about what I don't like. Oh, well, there's becoming more interesting food in this town. It is on a huge upturn. But like when I got here, there wasn't even any Thai food. I cooked Thai food. Did a reservation-only thing for the first year because there was no Thai food restaurant. Now there's one. The Chinese food is not great. The food scene is improving. That's why I wanted to be a part of that. But when we got here, there wasn't a huge range of food. And I said, this will give you an example. I remember when, we were really getting into learning about the Ecuadorian cuisine when we got here, and I was trying different places. I remember asking the taxi driver, they call it almuerzo, which is a lunch. Means this little lunch thing for like $1.50 to between $1.50 and $2.50, you get a little lunch, and sometimes even a little dessert or a juice or tea. And I asked the cab driver we were with at the time, I said, hey, what is the best almuerzo place in Cuenca? And he looked at me like that was the craziest question he ever heard. He's like, whichever one's the closest, And then I realized at that moment they all pretty much were exactly like. You can go to almost any place and it's the same basic fare, created in the same basic way with the same flavor. So the Ecuadorian cuisine, there's not a huge variety, but it's great. It's good food, but I couldn't eat it 3 times a day, every day. It would drive me nuts. That's why I'm into a varied cuisine and different international. That's
do you miss anything about not living in do you miss anything about the United States because you don't live here anymore? And that leads me to a great question that I want to pose to both you and Amy, because you are opposite type people, and I'll explain that in a minute. But is there anything about the that you miss because you don't live in the United States anymore?
Well, I certainly miss having access to some of our old friends and the family. We've lost out on that. That's been a heavy price to pay. But I just feel so much more relaxed here, and quite frankly, at least that's how I'm seeing things develop over there. The more I'm seeing develop, the more relaxed I am here. Now, things could change here at a moment's notice too, so I have to see how things develop here. But so far, I just, I don't know. I would be nervous. To me, the police are. Every time a cop was behind me when I was in California, my heart would race. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to pull me over. They're going to harass me. They're going to this and that. And often they would, and it would be an expensive whatever it was for some small turning and changing lanes without a blinker or something. Here, in 6 years, I have never had the police pull me over. Even when I was doing something illegal, I had a cop stop, look me in the eye, wag his finger at me, and said, "Bad driving, malconducción," and he took off and left. He waved his finger at me. Literally, and that's happened more than once. They do have roadside checks where they'll check for your license and this and that, so they have that, which I'm not accustomed to. But more often than not, they see you're extra on a hero and they'll just wave you through. They don't even have to. They just, you get actually, you're treated a little bit extra special with kid gloves by the police. So,
Excuse me, Bodhi.
you all right, Mike?
Yeah, that's fine. In the closing few minutes that we have here, I want to bring up a something that I just realized here. Amy, who's in the studio with me, is foreign by birth and American by choice. You are just the opposite. You're American by birth and foreign by choice. It's a very odd, you know, and I just realized that. So, Amy.
I like it.
Amy, why did you? Well, boy, it's not fair to ask you that to respond in 2 minutes. But isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I think I have some thoughts I want to share with audience, and for the last 38 years, I'm Chinese by birth, American by choice. We escaped from the communism into this country. And now the reason I'm talking about we're launching this program, China Uber Alice, I just wanted people to know what's real about the communism. Because people live here, if they just read a book, see the movie, or maybe visit in China, but they not really know what about it. So I think this country right now is from this last couple of administration and toward the wrong direction and socialism. And lots of places, especially California, San Francisco, I really feel like a lot of things they do is like a communism. So I think this is so important this time, this election.
But unlike Bodhi, and I'm not making any value judgments here, because on the one hand, I think Bodhi is the bravest, one of the bravest people I know, to pack up his whole family and leave the country that he is gotten disgusted with. On the other hand, you've decided to stay here and fight,
yes,
right?
Just like Michael said, we have stuff to taking care of it, right? We choose this country as my country, so we had to fight for our system to defend our democracy. Don't let them go to another direction, wrong direction. So this election is so important. I'm not talking about partisan, want somebody to vote Biden or Trump or Democrats or Republican. I want everybody to think about future our country. Vote. You must vote with your conscience. That's my message.
What a great message. And I don't think anybody would disagree with, well, maybe some people would. I've heard some people say, I don't vote. People here at the radio station, I've heard some of them say, we don't vote. We've become so disillusioned.
I stopped after 2000. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, Bodhi, we've got less than 15 seconds in the top of the hour, then we're going to go to the news. So you and I can talk privately, but I got to let everybody know it's the end of the Saturday special, hour number 1, here on your favorite radio station.
Left MZ, but first come, first serve. $10.80, 2 left, 1 blue, 1 green KSCO face masks.
Maybe I should have you save one for me, because I love my other one so much. I wear it more often than not, and it might wear out.
Which one do you want, the blue or the green?
The blue.
Okay.
Yeah, the blue.
Okay.
But I'm only kidding. No. If people want to buy them,
Well, I'll tell you what,
we're going to get a whole bunch.
I'll
of
save them, but if somebody wants to outbid you, I will.
Okay.
We'll start the bidding at
Fair
$10.80.
enough. Okay, Bodhi, thank you. I'll talk to you soon. I just said goodbye to my friend Bodhi in Ecuador.
Bodhi Burger sounds good.
Bodhi Burger is
good
good
name.
because I had some.
Really?
I had a Bodhi Burger when I was there, and it was deliciouser. Deliciouser than In Plus Out Burger, and I love In Plus Out Burger, but I like McDonald's and Burger King just as much, if not better, than In Plus Out Burger. But there's no place that makes a better chocolate shake that I know about than In Plus Out Burger, and I shouldn't have too many of those, but I do. I'm a bad boy from time to time.
All right.
So I just can't help it.
Well, I'll be out at the Dave Cave until 2. If anybody wants to outbid MZ for the face mask, we'll start the bidding at $100 a piece.
By the way, if you want to, are you going to do a sale when the shipment finally
The shipment
comes?
should be here tomorrow, and I'm going to call FedEx right now and find out.
Really? Did you
Yes.
find out that they shipped it?
Yes, they shipped it yesterday. It should be here tomorrow is when it's scheduled to be here.
It comes on. They deliver it on Sunday.
I don't know. That's what I'm going to find that out right now.
Okay, because as
think
of
Monday
yesterday, at the end of the day, when I looked at it, it didn't show that it had shipped on the computer. You must have looked at it subsequent.
I called at 4:00 yesterday. and
Okay,
it
great.
shipped.
Good.
So, and it's scheduled to be here tomorrow.
Okay.
Whether or not that happens, I'm pretty sure we're going to have it for Monday.
Do you want to make? Do you want to take? Are you taking orders for stuff that that you can either deliver if you know that it's in the order?
Absolutely, but I'd rather wait till we have the product in the garage.
Yeah.
And then we'll do it. So 218-5726. Call, find out what we have now. Otherwise, wait till Monday and pick up what you need. It'll be a good time.
Very good,
All right,
Dave
that's
Michaels. Thank you.
You got it.
Oh, hello, darling. I hate to hang up on you, but I'm sorry, baby, but I have to go. It's time for that wonderful record show. I'd love to visit, but you'll have to call back. KSCO has the inside track.
We sure do. Don't you wish you had the inside track like KSCO does? Yep. Arrogant sounding comment, huh? Oh well.
I'm sorry, baby, but I really gotta go to KSCO Radio. Bye.
Amy.
Yes.
Amy Howe. I believe a lot of, if not most of, if not all of our audience appreciates your perspective of being Chinese by birth and American by choice. You live your whole life appreciating that, don't you?
Sure. Yes. Especially when coming to this country, so I realize freedom is not free. So the system we have constantly to defend and to make better. And we cannot just take as granted and take all the benefits of this country. And we have to contribute.
So it's almost, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds to me like it's almost disloyal to bring up a topic like I did at the beginning of this program about are you getting sick and tired of, the direction this country is headed in, and start looking around for another place to go, and is there any other place to go? Maybe we're in the best place there's ever going to be. But then I thought about my friend Bodhi, who pulled up stakes 6.5 years ago, and I reached out to him, talked to him in 4 years, and he was right there. And so that's why we had his
But remember,
visit.
this is a free country, so they have a freedom to go anywhere they want to.
They have freedom to go
Yeah, because
if they
this
want
difference is the other side of the world. The communisms, you cannot go anywhere. You cannot go free. So
to go.
that's
My
the
father
difference.
used to say the obvious. Any place where they don't allow you to leave is not a good place, because if they have to restrict you, if you want to get away and you're not allowed to, there's something terribly wrong.
Definitely.
Now, talk to me about communist China. You got away from communist China, and you were in a communist China labor camp. So it's not impossible to get away because you did it. Okay? And I'm sure there are other people who want to do it, who are escaping to the United States and to other places that they feel they would enjoy better lives. Okay? So what's the deal there? I mean, is it if you were a resident in China, in communist China now, would you be imprisoned within China? Would you not be allowed to come to the United States or
Of
go?
course, right now they still have. That's why we have this program, this China Uber Alice. We had to talk about it. In China, they still prosecuting the people, the religious people, and all other ethnic group people.
Sure.
Put them in the labor camp still. This moment, that's why we want people to know.
But are they preventing people who want to leave from leaving?
No,
And
you
if-
cannot leave at all.
Okay. How did you leave?
Well, had to thank for the policy. American opened the door. Since 1972, Nixon opened the door, and I used this Henry Kissinger's policy, and to unite China and to defeat the Soviet Union. So if it doesn't have, I'm a beneficiary of this policy, I'm sure. And but right now, I'm a big fan of the Henry Kissinger because I think he's the only Secretary of State and to make the policy. And other Secretary of State just executed what it is. And so I read all his books, everything. But recently, I was think about that, look back, really read about that, how he evaluated the communism and everything else. I don't know, is make a huge mistake or what? Open the door for China for the last almost 50 years.
What do you think?
No, I think since Clinton administration, they started accept China go into the WTO, and then globalization, everything else, and then that's started really bad things. It's like open the Pandora's box. And then all the demons, everything come out. So up to today, and already little too late. But if we don't do now, will be never. So that's how important it is, we had to provide all the information on the program, China Uber Alice. So I want the people to sign up for the newsletter because we not just talk about 2-hour show, also have lots of materials for everybody to read, to understand, There will be ChinaUberAlice.com. Remember that. Sign up for the newsletter because they have lots of important information you can see from the site to understand the program, the topics, whether we talk about it.
Okay. So you really can't turn back the clock. It is what it is. But do you think it was a mistake to open up relations with because it was communist back then, and they were our enemies back then, just like the USSR.
Same as the Soviet Union. And somehow I understand, I visited Soviet Union after they dissolved, and I visited Cuba last year. They all communist country for a long time, 70 years or whatever it is, I think. To me, Chinese communist regime is the worst because they how to against the human nature in every way. And in Cuba, I visited. They still have this Catholic cemetery. They preserve very well. Even I asked it. I said Castro Raul. They are the the communists, how can they choose to bury in the Catholic ground? And they said, well, doesn't matter. They family, and they from the roots, they are Catholic, so they had to go back to the family and, rest in peace. And also another thing is after Castro died, and he left the words, he said he wanted to take all his personal image from buildings everywhere. So I got the no image of him. So I think he realized, he did something wrong. I think probably originally he wanted people to have free education, free hospital, the medical care, whatever. That's his dream. So every communism is an idealist. And then in the end, they become very poor. To today, they still use those coupons for the food, basic food, like rice and beans.
So everything is rationed.
Yeah, so they realize it doesn't work. So I'm talking about back to 48 years ago, and we think we united China so we can defeat the Soviet Union. Actually, Soviet Union, they are on the verge of the collapse because of the economy. So if we don't let the China out and open the door for China, they're still going to fall. I don't know, just the thoughts. People can discuss with that, because
by the way, if you want to join the conversation, it's a live program today, Saturday the 3rd of October. Saturday special on your favorite radio station, AM 1080 and FM 104.1, and a number of other FM channels, KSCO. It's 11:17, hour number 2 of the KSCO Saturday special. A guest in the studio today is Amy Howe, who is American by choice, Chinese by birth. And if you want to talk with us on this or any other topic about what's going on in our world, please call us at 831-479-1080, 831-479-1080, or you can email me at mz@ksco.com. So Amy, what do you think about the Trump and the COVID virus and the possibility of what could be right around the corner if everybody gets sick?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I mean,
but I think he will recover quickly.
yeah, because I don't think he's very sick either. But and they're trying all kinds of even experimental, not necessarily approved treatments to get the president back on his feet. Not that he's been off his feet, actually. He's, as I understand it, he's fully functional, and the only reason he's at Walter Reed Hospital is because better to be safe than sorry, right? So, anyhow. And
so you think the next debate will be virtual?
yes, I do. Mm-hmm. And that'll be fine. I don't know what it might be just as unruly as the first one. Who knows? But so anyhow, we can talk about that if you want to give us a call at 479-1080 or email mz@ksco.com. I'm just wondering what the weirdest, most unexpected outcome that no one's even thought about can be.
Let's answer some phone calls.
We will answer some phone calls here, but they're being, we have a call screener. It's Dave. Yeah, he's in the front. So, if you want to give us a call, 479-1080, we will take your calls here, but something wrong with the phone system, I think, here, because they're dropping off as they're calling. But in any case, yes, as I understand it, it happened. It actually happened once before in 1974. The vice president, Spiro Agnew, had resigned in shame, and so did Nixon resign in shame. And so we ended up with a Speaker of the House who also happened to be a Republican, who was Gerald Ford. Now, this...
For how long?
Well, he didn't get reelected. He was the first selected president. Some people say George Bush Jr. was the first selected president. I guess he was. What's his name? Gerald Ford wasn't selected. He was the first non-elected president. Anyhow, 479-1080 if you want to join the conversation. Let's see who we have here. First, let's go on. Let's get John in Soquel on the air. John in Soquel, you are on the air.
Yes. Hi, Michael. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
I want to thank Amy for alerting us to the dangers of China and dangers to our freedoms. And I wonder if Amy could comment on how imminent you think that danger is from China.
Very, very dangerous. I think this election, not just for our United States, is for entire free world. is
Yes.
really important. So that's why this election, whole world is watching every movement, because I have a lot of friends in different countries, in Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and different parts of the world. And everybody with every movement we hear, and they just watching. I think more care about than the maybe here people. Yeah,
Why are
because
they so
all talk.
interested?
Because they feel if this time is determining the direction of this world, where we headed to, is we still be a free world or we surrounded to communist. So that's how important it is.
Yes. I'm so glad you were bringing that up. And Michael, thank you for having the show, China Uber Alles. Also, I wonder, with all the business connections U.S. corporations have with China, can we possibly extract ourselves from those connections?
Great question.
Right.
What do you think, Amy?
Yeah, I think that will take a time, because and actually already have a lot of movements. Lots of movement, maybe we didn't know, and lots of manufacturing job already moved out of China for last 5 years. And lots of big corporations moved to Vietnam, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, India. So it's going to be reorganized, basically. But the important is the direction. We had to be strong to lead, because the whole world is watching us. So we cannot just, and talk about some small things and partisans and that. So, this is just every American citizen had to for their responsibility. This is our country.
Yeah, absolutely. And President Trump seems to be the only politician in my memory that's been willing to stand up to the China. And also
that's the first one. I think it's first one, to do something, not just talk about it. They talk about it a lot. Well, last 30 years, and never do anything. He's the only one. So
right.
obviously, everybody had to wake up and look at the fact. Hong Kong, we lost Hong Kong at this moment. No more Hong Kong. Hong Kong is China.
That is
just
recently occurred, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. What about Taiwan?
Taiwan, yes. Taiwan is not. Taiwan, fortunately, we didn't wait that long. So, of course, Taiwan, we're going to rezone the diplomatic relationship. So the ball was kicked to the Chinese corner, so they had to decide it. What are they going to do? Usually, for the last 30 years, they're just jumping up and down, every time we do something with Taiwan. And this time, you see that? This time, there's some kind of quiet, but we see, because see whether they're going to react. And then it's immediately related to the United Nations and WHO. So everything had to it's a big change. It's a big change in the world. We have to be very seriously.
I think I agree with you entirely. I'm so thankful that you're alerting us to this, and I hope that Americans will take it seriously and vote for President Trump, because I think the Trump administration is the only one who can really protect us from those dangers. So
absolutely. Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Thanks, John in
Thanks,
SoCal.
Michael.
Okay, you bet. 479-1080 is the phone number to call. That's in area 831. Or you can email mz@ksco.com. Here's Colonel Terry. Hey, Colonel Terry, you're on the air.
Hi, thank you, MZ. I compliment the lady's efforts. I'm glad that she escaped the repression of communist China government. However, understand that Trump is not necessary for us to correct the problem with China, in that Red China and the Communist Party has stolen American technology. They have stolen millions of American jobs. They have stolen trillions of wealth from us. And if
how
Biden
come
wins,
the other people don't seem to care? The other presidents don't seem to care, and I know you don't care for Trump, even though I think you said you voted for him originally. Is that right? Because of
I voted because I wanted immigration enforced.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
So he hasn't let you down there, has he? Or I guess he has a little bit, right?
Let me down substantially, and I could give you half an hour of how that's happened. But
What
more
about the
importantly,
policies then for China, Trump's?
policies, madam, for China under Obama and even Democrats addressed the Chinese trade ripoffs and beat them in the World Court, in the World Trade Organization litigations, and so forth.
But they never did anything.
They did some. Yes, they did. They got adjustments, and they fought them. All right. And the Chinese Communist government was
What adjustment?
The Chinese. I was in the White House when this was going on.
Answer her question. What adjustments?
No, I mean in Obama administration or you in Clinton administration? Which one? Or Bush?
Though the Clintons sold us out to China because the Chinese were bribing Bill Clinton and Hillary before he was even governor of Arkansas and afterwards. The Clintons gave China at least 4 million jobs illegally.
Yeah, they accepted WHO. That's happened. They entered the WHO at that time during the Clinton. I think he's the one started this.
You are correct. We let them into the WHO without any restrictions, without them having to comply with the rules, and they stole jobs and they stole technology, and they still do it.
So you think the Democrat administration, they will do anything different from Clinton or Obama?
The answer is, of course, they will. They weren't taking bribes the way the Clintons were for 30 years.
So from the debate and the other things, Biden talk about the China, I don't see how they would do that. Just no way.
Biden never said he would cave into China. Untrue. And the big picture, and what we ought to have.
But what about his son's association with China?
Biden is not going to cave
That's not
into
true. That's not a fact. And just the propaganda, or what?
Yeah, it is propaganda. It's Trump propaganda.
That the scandal is propaganda? And also the other things, during Obama time. Obama has brothers and doing things in China and have a business in China. Those kind of things, they're all just fiction, right?
No business
Probably
in China.
just a fiction.
There is no evidence of that, in fact. Now, I didn't like Obama either for a variety of reasons. The man was weak on Iran and so forth. Where we are now is we must have, and I agree with you, we must confront the red Chinese communist damn government. We must confront the business people in league with it. It's all one big conspiracy to steal jobs and wealth from the United States and elsewhere. That we must confront. We must hold them accountable in our laws, because they're breaking our anti-monopoly laws as well.
I had to tell you something. I think that those globalism, Obama, Clinton, right? And they all cohorts with the CCP.
They're not in cahoots with it. They were bamboozled.
Yes, every way.
Yeah, well, also the George W.
And
Bush.
including some big corporation in this country.
There's terrible
They all
corruption with our corporations.
cohort together.
You are correct. It all should be.
And 1% of those people leading class in CCP and 1% here, and they all cohort together called the globalization.
You are correct.
Make themselves filthy rich and took away everything. And sacrifice our democracy, our freedom for that.
Part of
for money.
Part of protecting our freedom is to protect us from these huge American corporations and the billionaires who bribe both our parties and, yes, are in conspiracy with the Chinese Communist Party and their business affiliates to steal more wealth from our country.
You think Obama did anything for that?
Yes.
To preventing those big corporations? Still monopoly everything?
Yes, Obama did bring the antitrust laws far more, the anti-monopoly laws, far more than the Republicans had ever done before. I saw it.
But they're still getting bigger and bigger, the result of that.
There was effort by the Obama administration to stop the big corporations. Yes, some effort, not enough.
Yeah, we only count the result. I don't know what kind of effort they did.
W. Bush and Cheney administration.
At least Trump did something, have a result. We
Trump
see it.
Did a little bit.
You know why? Recently I counted lots of people in China. they all support the Biden. So what do you think? I mean, CCP people. They love Biden. What do you think?
I support. I am well informed.
They love his policy. They think that they can make a deal with him. They love it. And then they just know, just yesterday, they know Trump get COVID, and they celebrate, just like they celebrate 9/11. Can you believe that? CCP inside China right now, I just received lots of things.
They're dancing in the streets.
Yes.
I agree with you how evil the Chinese Communist Party is and the people in league and business with them.
So why they love Biden, you tell me?
I want to change from Trump because
So
Trump
who you think it will be besides Trump? Nobody.
I'm not sure.
I had to be honest with you. I don't think anybody at this point, at least maybe you.
If you're honest about
I
Trump,
will vote for you if you can do that.
Dangerous to our country. If you're honest about Chinese Communist Party, we must confront them. Biden will confront them.
We're not just to confirm, we had to defeat them.
Well, we should defeat them, yes. We should help Hong Kong get independence from
Confirm is
China.
not enough. Defeat.
I haven't finished. You're right. We should push for there will be a political revolution in China to free all the Chinese people like yourself, okay, who stood up to the government, so that there is an open economy and an open political system in China, and get rid of the Communist Party dictatorship. That should be our announced goal. We agree fully on that. And I think Biden will advance that. Trump will not as much, and among other factors.
Okay. Thank you for calling 479-1080, Colonel Terry. Here's Hilga in Carmel about the upcoming election.
Yes. Good morning.
Hey.
I just couldn't sit still anymore. I'm a complete 100% Trump reporter. And what I want to say is, why would Biden be against China when he got so much money from China? Give me a break. If we don't get Trump back in, this country will be sunk. I'm telling you right now. If you get the Biden administration in there, we are going totally socialistic, communistic. I lived in Germany under Hitler. I'm 84 years old. And we are already seeing this. Everything it's mandatory. You can't do this. You can't do this. It's already 80% totally socialistic. The people want more and more money because the people in power are rich. And the people in the middle class are going to go out of business, and we're going to have a two-class system, the rich and the poor. And that's a fact. The fact that President Trump paid only $700 and some is he has a lot of write-offs, okay? People don't understand. He has all over the world, the guy's very wealthy. From the minute he got into office, they tried to get this man out. He will be the best president since Lincoln. That's going to go into history, whether people like it or not. President Trump loves this country, and he doesn't want it to go down. Neither do I. It's the best country in the world. For God's sake, people, get real. I lived in Germany. My mother had to crawl under a blanket and listen to BBC London every night to hear the truth, because the media and the movie business in Germany was 1,000% pro-Hitler. They loved this Führer. We had to have a picture in his house. My mother said she wants to hang it in the outhouse. She hated him. And she almost wound up in the concentration camp. If you don't know what freedom is, you're going to, when you lose it, you're going to be put in bondage through these they want to give us all these immunizations. That's the part that scares me the most. So anyway, please wake up and vote for Trump. I can't help you otherwise because I see it. I'm 84 years old. And I've seen big countries fall. Italy, all these big countries fell. And if people are so ignorant and hate Trump, he has a certain way about him. I'm not in control of him, but he has He deserves peace prizes. He doesn't want war. So that's all I have to say. I'm shaken just thinking about it.
Wow. Thank you very much. And try not to shake, but I don't blame you for shaking because you've made me shake too,
Because
Hilda.
where I live in Carmel, people, even in my apartment building, people don't even want to talk to me when I bring up Trump. Oh, we hate this guy. How can you be so ignorant? I don't understand the people.
Yeah. Well.
Thank you for your phone call. So much.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Yeah.
Hilda, did you visit us once in
Yes,
at KSCO?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's
I'm
what I
80
thought. I haven't seen you for a while. I haven't heard you. Maybe you called in some of the other shows, but I miss your
listen to
calls.
every show. I listen to all your karaoke. Wonderful. I listen to everything.
Oh, I promised I wouldn't. I didn't say it on the air, but I'll say it now. I won't sing today because
okay.
I did too much singing last week apparently.
Okay,
that drove. We didn't get any phone calls the first hour. And the reason might have been because I drove all the audience away with all my singing last week.
Oh, no. You are very good. And Amy, I love you. I love Amy.
Thank you.
You have a lot of guts. You have to have guts to stand up for what you believe in. This is what's missing in this country. You have to stand up for your core beliefs.
So I got to ask you, Hilda, is there anybody in your apartment building who is a Trump supporter like yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, there is.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not all
That's great.
people who are.
No, out of 20-some, that three parties. The rest of them are all Democrats. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know of any Democrat who would support Trump under any circumstances?
No. I've never seen anything like it. They're going to vote for Biden. Mm-hmm. And Biden is going to be out, and then that woman is going to be in there. That's the whole thing. And that Pelosi needs to go. That woman is insane. So, like I said, I have no power. I'm just expressing my opinion on this station because this is the best station there is. And I listen to Alex Jones. I listen to him.
What do you think of Alex?
Well, I think he's a little bit of a fearmonger, but he's right in a lot of ways. I mean, he's drastic what he's seeing. He had a doctor on yesterday talk about that shot that they want to give us, that changing your DNA and everything. It's very frightening. And they're going to make this thing mandatory. That's what I'm worried about Trump, that he's going to he said the military is going to give these shots. That scares me. That's already losing our... what happened to the Constitution on that one? Mandatory. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's really scary.
That's frightening.
Helga, thank you so much for calling the Saturday
you're
special.
very welcome. Okay,
really appreciate
bye-bye.
You. Have a good one. Richard in Watsonville. Hi, Richard.
Hey, Mike, is it contagious?
What?
The flu thing that's going around. I mean, it's not to the point where it's... Well, I don't know, man, but I have some serious questions about what that last lady just called.
Oh.
Hilda, because... I don't know. I grew up like you did in the 50s, man. That's all we heard is what happened over there in Germany with the Nazis and the Jews and everything. It was terrible. Mm-hmm. But for me, it was almost like every weekend, up at Kaufman's.
Oh, yes, at Kaufman's concentration camp.
KKK.
Right.
You would learn things there that you never want to do again.
Exactly.
But then I went to Vietnam 2 more times, after that.
Yep.
And I went to Hong Kong. I saw, things that I never thought I would see before. I come back here, and I go through, almost 50 years of this stuff now, huh? And I'm wondering if we should hurt China real bad. That's what's going around, I think, in this country right now, is do we need to pay back China? Another thing is, did you hear the question I asked Dave Michaels yesterday?
No, I wasn't listening.
Okay, listen to this one. Say Trump's in the hospital, like he is right now, and he gets worse, but then he gets better. The other night, him and Biden were in the same room together. Say Biden gets the flu, and he goes down, and he dies. Then what happens, Mike? We get Kamala Harris, or how much different is life going to be? Because we know that Trump wants to put the hurt on China, and Biden doesn't. And I think Biden does it, like your guest there, Amy, said, because of the money. You know, is to and Pelosi and that other clown, man, Schumer. Those guys have lost all the credibility that the Democratic Party ever had, man. It's gone. You have that same feeling?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It's not even a good idea to go to San Francisco anymore, like Amy said. It's like you don't know who's running the place anymore up there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you live in the United
hell
States.
No, that's, the freedom up there is gone. Look, how much does it cost to cross the bridge now?
$6 to $7 to $8.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Well, all right, man. Thank you. Huh?
Thank you, Richard and Watsonville. Always great to hear from you. Okay, Don and Salinas. You're on the air. Hi, Don.
Hi. Hooray for Hilda. What a great call.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
That lady blew me away.
Yep.
And she's very brave living in Carmel, because Saul Alinsky lived in Carmel, and retired deep state are peppered throughout Carmel. So she's it's been rough being a Trump supporter out there, I bet.
Yeah.
What I wanted to put out there is the Democrats and their lick spittles in the media have weaponized Corona to the point where the president's in the hospital right now with a slight fever and a runny nose, and they're already burying him and installing Pelosi as the president. Yeah, and also they're trying to shut down the confirmation process for this Amy, for the SCOTUS.
Yes, because they want Pelosi become a president, and they're going to nominate Obama as a justice.
Yeah, I mean, it's
That's a plan.
completely ridiculous. This is a scam. And what I'm hoping happens is that Trump kicks Corona's ass, comes out and tells America, this ain't no big deal. I had it. I went through it.
He will.
Get back to work, America. This is a scam. It's not as scary as you think. My God, you know, the flu is actually worse on your body than Corona if you're a healthy person. They won't tell you that. This is such a load of bull. And there's something else I want to throw out here. They're saying, like they like to say, the Corona don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. Well, if that's true, why the hell are only Republicans getting it? I don't hear no Democrats getting Corona. I'm putting out there that they went in and sprayed Corona all over some broom that Trump went in with his people so that they would get the Corona. And now they're using it to scare everybody. They didn't wear a mask. There is not a documented case of someone getting Corona by not wearing a mask. It's 99% you touch Corona, you touch your face. That's what gives you the Corona. But all of a sudden, all these Republicans are getting Corona, and no Democrats. What? WTF again? What's going on
Yeah,
here?
WTF. Yeah, WTF. Yeah.
Yeah,
WTF.
but what do you think, MZ? What's the chances of all these
I
Republicans?
never
getting
stopped to
Corona?
think about that, Don and Salinas. You're a really smart dude. I've always thought that, but now I know it.
Okay, well, you got a great show going on, and please bring Hilda back to tell some more of her stories when she grew up in Hitler's Germany about how he was the Obama and the media all.
Hilda
kissed
needs
his
to be
butt.
a host on KSCO.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, MZ.
Thank you. Okay, now before we're going to take the next one, but before we talk with Shelley in Monterey about the mannerisms of Colonel Terry, I'm going to read this email from Andres about Colonel Terry. I love Amy. It says Amy versus Terry in the subject line. I love Amy. I think Two Straw Terry should be an expat in Ecuador. Maybe he can open up a fancy hat shop or something. What do you think, Shelley in Monterey? This should not, listen. Should not be at the expense necessarily of Colonel Terry. However,
no.
You want to say something about his mannerisms, do you?
MZ, did you listen to Amy on Thursday?
Yes, I did. It was a great show.
Were you in tears? 'Cause I was.
Yes, yeah. Everybody I talked to was, yes. And that's
Amy has
that's only one of how many stories do you have, Amy, like that? How many? In the hundreds?
100,000.
Wow.
I say the 1,019, Arabian 9. I have a 100,001 Chinese nightmare. I can't tell.
And
Chinese
for Amy
nightmares.
to come forward and share that trauma that she experienced, that was super brave for her to do that. And she's doing it to sound the alarm.
That's right.
And for Colonel Terry to get on the air and act like he knows what he's talking about when he has not lived it. He's never experienced what Amy has experienced, and he never will. And for him to get on there and tell Amy what's going on, the most disrespectful. Colonel Terry can have all the education in the world, but until he's lived what Amy's lived, he has no right to get on this radio station and talk to Amy like that. I was in tears listening to her story, and I couldn't believe she was brave enough and sacrificed her own personal space just in the effort to sound the alarm to us. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you for your compliment. I was always a very private person. When MZ wanted me to talk about these things, I don't like to talk about that. I don't like I always think the pain is private. I don't like sensational things. But I think I have, the responsibility to tell people the truth. Nothing but truth.
Right, and for Colonel Terry to have the nerve to think he knows what he's talking about and he's going to tell you what's going on, he has no idea what's going on. He can have all the academics he wants to have. I'm just so disgusted with that man. But you know what? That's a reflection of a lot of our population. And it's not just the young people. There's older people like Colonel Terry that are so fixated on being right that they don't look at the truth. Like you said, Amy, the truth.
Yes.
All right.
Hey,
Shelley, thank you.
I really just want to thank you. Thank you for bringing Amy on.
Okay.
I really
appreciate the kind words, Shelley in Monterey. Okay, here is John in Prunedale. You're on, John.
Hey, MZ, how's it going today?
Great.
Good. Hey, I'll tell you something. That call from, was it Hilda in Carmel?
Hilda, yeah.
That just blew me away. I mean, that's just incredible call. And it reminded me of that old saying, liberalism, ideas so good they have to be made mandatory. Except that what we're looking at right now is not really liberalism, it's really leftism. But anyway, I wanted to ask Amy a question.
Yes.
And it has to do with the media's coverage of, the election interference and all that type of stuff. It's like they are fixated on Putin and Russia, and yet they ignore China. And I have a hunch. I just have a theory, and I don't know because I ask myself, well, why are they so fixated? Russia is not as big a threat to us. I have a theory that China, through their media influence, has got to be behind this campaign, this disinformation campaign to keep the eye on Putin. I can't figure it out. Any other reason why we would be so worried about Putin and Russia?
Money. And very simple. But I think that was part of a thing we had to fight. to fight our freedom of speech. Because right now the big money and lots of money from China already bought our mainstream media. So Trump was first thing talk about fake news, to point out of that. Before nobody, they still brainwash American peoples and they use Chinese money.
And that's the part that we're just. It just amazes me how everybody, and especially the Democrats, they keep talking about Putin and Russia, and I'm just like, wake up. Putin and Russia, they don't control our media. They're not, I don't know. It's very frustrating to me as to why, I know why, because I think it's like you just said, money. That's what it all boils down to.
Yeah.
And, I thank MZ and KSCO for having you on, and because we need to take that spotlight and refocus it where it's supposed to be, not on all these diversions that they keep throwing out there.
That's right.
That was probably engineered by the CCP. Anyhow, thank you very much for calling.
To point out this important issue, the freedom of speech.
Yes. Thank you, John in Prunedale. Here is Al in Santa Cruz. Is it downtown Al?
No.
Yeah, it is.
Uptown Al.
Okay.
This is Uptown Al.
All right.
This is Uptown Al. I had a question.
Oh, it
for
is.
you.
Yeah, you're a different Al. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, he told me Midtown Al. Doesn't matter. But I had a good question for Amy and you. And first, I want to say, number one, Colonel Terry, I mean, give the guy a break. He was actually very respectful. Maybe, you don't agree with what he was saying, but this station you guys are running is, it's supposed to have all the ideas.
It does.
That's right.
It does.
He was respectful. I listened to the whole thing. And then, but on Hilda kind of cleared it up, which is going to lead to the last question. But Hilda cleared it up, and she said the forced immunizations that not just Sleepy Joe or Trump, I mean, they both are, you saw Donald Trump, he unboxed the test. He did a whole, the pharmaceutical companies obviously have them by the belt. So, and my question for Amy and Hilda, is very, I really liked it. I almost teared up a little. But, Amy and MZ, so, and I think Trump's a lot better than Biden. I mean, I don't really like either of them because, I mean, how could you? But
sure, this is a free country.
Trump's better. I don't want to go into socialism, but Amy and MZ, so the shot and the Operation Moon Speed or whatever it is, and how Trump says he wants to have the military do it with explosion force or whatever he said. So how can you separate Biden and Trump when they're both? I don't know if you guys want a forced shot, but I definitely don't. What do you guys think about that, Amy? I'll just ask Amy and MZ.
I'm not clear about what the Trump are talking about. For mandatory for have a shot or what?
Yeah,
I don't know about.
He did say before too.
From
that
CDC or from.
But I think I've never heard him say anything about mandatory.
I don't know about the policy.
He didn't say mandatory. He never said mandatory, but he did say that the military is going to come out and give. And so that just shows that Bill Gates, or whatever you want to call him, Bill Gates, he has a plan that he wants to. You can listen to him talk with his wife. Yeah. And they talk about
there's no end to what we can do. I want to thank you for calling Midtown Al. We got to get to. I want to try to get to everybody if we can. I don't know if we can. Phil in Santa Cruz, request from me. What?
Yeah, real quick, MZ. I would like to be able to take Hilda's talk, her call, not the whole thing, but just her call, and download a podcast of it so I can send it to people I know in Pennsylvania, Ohio, states where it makes a difference.
It will be done, and I have another idea for that. I have Hilda's number. I took it from the screen here. I'm going to call and ask her permission. I'm sure she'll grant it.
Thank you, sir. Okay. That call was beautiful.
The best call we've ever had. Okay, thank you. Here's Bill in Carmel.
Hey, hi, MZ. I'm sure glad that Amy Coney Barrett didn't come down with the virus.
Yeah.
kind of makes me wonder if these people are being targeted by the Democrats to give them the virus to disrupt the election.
I wouldn't put it past anybody.
I wouldn't either. And one other thing really quick. You know, a couple of weeks ago when Trump was having a rally and people were chanting, "We love you, we love you."
Yes.
And they did that when he ran in 16, too. And I asked a friend of mine, have you ever in your whole life, he's 85, have you ever seen anybody chant that to a presidential candidate? And he said no.
Well,
but what Trump puts out, he gets back, huh?
Yeah.
He really cares about the country.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, thank you for bringing that up, Bill. Appreciate your call to 479-1080. Here's Son in Boulder Creek.
Hi, all.
Hey, Son.
Great show.
Mrs. Future, yeah. How are you?
I'm great. And I just wanted to say I believe that Amy won the debate. I'm so proud of you for being so informed and so great in a conversation like that where you just really bring the facts up to counter the emotions.
Thank you, Mrs. Future.
And I also wanted to just say there's nothing to fear but fear itself. And even if this is the second wave of the coronavirus, even if it's planted on the Republicans to make them look bad, now's the time to be more careful than ever because the craziness until the election is going to define the future. So remain calm and remain friends, and let's keep America strong, beautiful, free speech, home of the free and the brave, and just great show. Thank you so much,
Thank
guys.
you, Son. Here's Rich and Salinas, our final call for the day. Rich, you're on.
Yeah, hi. I got a suggestion. Why don't you have Hilda and Amy do commentaries like your mother used to do?
I love it. I love the idea. I'm not going to put Amy on the spot right now, but I think that's the greatest idea.
I have a question for Amy. I've been reading a lot of articles on YouTube about China collapsing from internally because of the retired veterans and the current military are getting tired from the Communist Party.
Yeah.
I think we've lost him on the cell phone or something, but
hello?
Yeah, we missed that, and we only got about 10 seconds, so hurry up.
Hey, what does Amy understand about the Communist Party? The military, retired and current, are really upset at the Communist Party?
Yes. Actually, the internal problems are lots of very huge, and just like a volcano. So just waiting for explode.
Okay, that's it, gang. Thank you, Dave Michaels. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.
That's all, folks.